All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest challenges in conservation. How do we manage our planet's most incredible natural spaces? Because it is a true tightrope walk, and the choices we make, well, they're going to echo for generations.
I mean, really think about this question. It's what park managers wake up to every single day. You've got this priceless, fragile ecosystem on one side. And on the other, you have entire communities whose livelihoods, their ability to feed their families, depend on that exact same place for things like tourism and fishing. So what do you do? And this number, well, this really shows you how high the stakes are. In a country like Ecuador, which is just bursting with biodiversity, only 40% of protected areas are actually keeping systematic track of human impacts. Think about that. That's like trying to fly a plane with more than half your instruments blacked out. It means most of these crucial areas are being managed without the full picture.
But here's the good news. It's not impossible. Not at all. There are success stories. Take Machalila National Park. They took a hard look at the situation, and by creating specific, designated zones for different activities, they actually managed to dial down the conflict and seriously boost the conservation of marine species. It's proof that with a smart plan, you really can have it both ways, a healthy ecosystem and a healthy community.
So how do park managers pull this off? Well, you have to be a bit of a juggler, constantly keeping three major and often competing demands in the air. Let's break down exactly what those are.
First, you've got the biological demand. You can think of this as nature's voice in the conversation. The goal here is pretty simple. Keep the ecosystem humming along and protect all the different forms of life within it. And to do that, managers use tools like biological surveys, and they keep a close eye on key species. A classic example is creating a core zone. Just picture a bullseye. That very center is the most protected part, like the special zones set up just to protect sea turtle nesting sites in the Pacoche Reserve. Okay, next up is the tourist demand. That's us. We all want to see these amazing places, right? And that's a good thing. It brings in money and builds support for protecting them. But too many people can cause real damage. So managers use some clever tools. One is a visitor capacity analysis, which is just a fancy way of asking, how many people can this place handle before we start breaking things? Another is a tourism impact matrix, kind of like a scorecard that weighs the economic pluses of an activity against the ecological minuses. And this is exactly why you'll see limits on how many people can visit sensitive spots like they do in Cayambe Coca National Park.
And the third major demand, which is so important, is fishing. This is tied directly to local people's ability to make a living. Now, the modern way of thinking isn't just to ban everything. It's about weaving sustainable fishing right into the park's master plan. This means creating designated fishing zones and, crucially, working with the local communities. A brilliant example is in the Galapagos, where they actually co-manage no-take zones with the local fishermen. It's a perfect case of working with nature and people, not against them.
So, with all these forces pulling in different directions, how do managers make choices that are based on facts, not just feelings or guesswork? Well, they don't have to guess. They have a specific toolkit of analytical methods that help them cut through all the noise and find some real clarity.
And one of the most powerful tools in that kit is the SWOT analysis. It sounds corporate, but it's super effective. It's a framework for taking a brutally honest look at the internal strengths and weaknesses of the area, and then scanning the horizon for the external opportunities and threats it's facing.
Now, this isn't just a textbook theory. Let's look at a real-world SWOT for the El Pilado Marine Reserve. Check out the opportunities. You've got international interest, huge potential for ecotourism. Awesome, right? But then your eyes drift over to the threats column, and boom, overfishing, pollution, climate change. You can see how the very things that could make this place thrive are under direct attack. This one chart just lays out the entire battlefield perfectly.
Okay, so you've done your homework. You've used a tool like SWOT to get the lay of the land. But that's just the diagnosis. How do you turn all that raw information into an actual blueprint for action, day after day, year after year?
The answer is a process called adaptive management. And the key word there is adaptive. This is not some dusty plan that sits on a shelf for 10 years. It's a living, breathing cycle. You define your goals, you figure out what's going on, you prioritize what to protect, but here's the magic. You constantly monitor what's happening. You see what's working and what's not, and you adjust. It's a continuous loop of learning and improving, which means you have to be ready to admit when something isn't working and be flexible enough to change it.
And what's the most powerful practical tool that comes out of this whole process? The thing that actually resolves all those conflicts we've been talking about on the ground? It all comes down to one simple but brilliant idea: zoning.
Zoning is pretty much exactly what it sounds like, drawing lines on a map. But its power is in recognizing that a one-size-fits-all approach is doomed to fail. A fragile coral reef needs totally different rules than a traditional fishing area. So you create core zones. Think of them as nature's VIP section. Maximum protection, basically off-limits except for scientists. And then you have sustainable use zones, where you can allow things like well-regulated fishing or low-impact tourism. It's all about tailoring the rules to the specific needs of each little piece of the puzzle.
And this quote really nails the heart of modern conservation. The old way of thinking was to just build a fortress around nature and keep people out. But this new approach is so much more sophisticated and, frankly, more hopeful. It's about finding smart, sustainable ways for us and the ecosystems we depend on to thrive together. So we'll leave you with this. Because even with all the best tools and the smartest plans, we circle right back to the central dilemma. Is it ethical to limit someone's ability to make a living in order to save an entire species from disappearing forever? There are no easy answers. But by understanding all the complexity that goes into these decisions, at least we can start to have a more informed, more empathetic conversation about how to protect the incredible places we all share.